Hey guys, welcome back to my channel. Today I have a ton of new products to try. So we're gonna do a trying new makeup. I will link everything down below. I hope you subscribe if you're new, and let's go ahead and get into it. All right, so I've zoomed you in and I wanna add a little bit more lip balm. My lips are dry as per usual. This is the new Chateau Rose from Edam. I love this color and it smells incredible. I've just been like absolutely obsessed. They came out with 2 different shades. I bought both of them and they have been top drawer. But now I want to get into some fragrances. So I purchased all 3 of these from Sol de Janeiro. These are their newest body mist. Now I typically do love most of the Sol de Janeiro scents just because they are lighter, they're body mist, they're usually sweet, fruity, musky. But let's start off with the first one, which is Cheeky Bikini. I do actually like this packaging. I think it's a cute twist for summer. So let me grab my little spritzer applicator perfume things so that I can really get my thoughts. So the notes on this are apricot nectar, crushed orange blossom, and sheer vanilla. I would say this one is definitely the most floral of the 3, but it's not a floral that I find headache inducing. I don't get much of the vanilla in here. This is very bright. I think like that nectar apricot vibe. Overall, I find this to be a bright, juicy, fruity floral. It's not too floral where I can't wear it, but it does have a floral leaning vibe. So I think this is nice. This is my second pick out of the 3. Now the first pick, I was excited about this, but again, you never know until you get the fragrance in your hands. This is Limonada Gelada. I love this, and I'll tell you what this reminds me of. This reminds me of the Forever Mood lemon fragrance, if you've ever smelled that. And I think it's because it does have that lemon, but creamy, sort of musky dry down. So the notes are Brazilian lemonade accord, coconut milk, and brown sugar. This smells so delicious to me. I definitely get the coconut milk and brown sugar. I think that's what gives it that gourmand sort of musky vibe rather than a typical coconut sunscreen. And I do get a little bit of that lemonade. It is quite faint, I will say. So if you're expecting like a lemon forward fragrance, I don't think this is that. I absolutely love this one. It is definitely my favorite. This is a standout for me from Sol de Janeiro for quite a while. I just really love sweet scents. And then the last one, I didn't know how I was gonna feel about this, and I don't still know how I feel about this. This is Refresco Paraiso, and this has notes of rainforest orchid, sea breeze, and Brazilian blue cactus. I wasn't sure how that cactus was going to mix with everything else. I have to say this is a unique scent for them, but it's not my personal favorite. I get this really nose tickling sort of vibe from this, and I don't know if it's the orchid mixed with that blue cactus. There's definitely a green undercurrent, salty, fresh, but with a green twist. I don't hate this one. I find it to be pretty like aquatic, fresh, but I wouldn't personally wear it because there's just something almost powdery. I don't know if it's the cactus or the orchid or them mixed. It just makes me feel like I have to sneeze. And that's something that can happen with like certain fragrances if they have like certain floral aspects to them. But this is definitely unique. If you like fresh and a little bit of like that salty, breezy green vibe, then that would be the one. But for me, I am really loving both of these. This one is just delicious. And this one is more like spring forward, really fresh and fruity and fun. I also want to give my thoughts on another new fragrance. This is the Fleur Honeymoon. So they sent this to me in PR. I was fully anticipating hating this because I just don't like honey in my fragrances. There's something just strange about it that to me does not smell good, almost like beeswax kind of vibes. But this has notes of mandarin, manuka honey, and vanilla bean. And I was really surprised how much I like this. It is definitely a bright, fresh, slightly powdery vanilla floral. That's how I read it. I don't smell mandarin, but I do get a little bit of lavender, which is another note in the description. But I think that it is grounded nicely by that vanilla bean. And it also says that it has sandalwood and tonka. So it is overall a floral scent, but it's quite warm. So I actually think it's a nice one. I actually really like this, and I was totally like, oh, I'm not a floral person and honey doesn't sound good to me, but I really don't get much honey at all. So I went ahead and zoomed you in some more, and I want to do a really easy eye look with the Makeup by Mario palette that has been brought back permanently. So the original Ethereal Eyes Makeup by Mario palette was a huge hit. I have a video that I did on this palette and I really loved my look, but I found that the mattes were a little bit powdery and kind of blended away. I love the color story, but I much prefer his Master Mattes, just all matte. That's one of my most used palettes. But he did send me the new palette in PR. I was actually shocked. So I wanted to use it today. I am going to put some swatches on the screen. It appears, from what I'm looking at and just touching the shadows, they appear to be identical in terms of like comparing the colors, the swatches, you know, the feel, everything feels pretty much identical. And I did even look up the ingredients because I wanted to see if the shimmers were like the original or they were like the Nature palette that a lot of people were complaining about. But from what I could find, the shimmers in this palette match up to the ingredients on the shimmers in the original palette. I'm trying to keep my thoughts straight. And I did find the original ingredients from, I think, Temptalia. So I think that's a pretty good source. So I want to just do something really easy. This is actually, okay, this is the original. You guys, this is where I'm like, they literally look identical. It's hard to tell. And plus I've swatched the new one. So this is what the new one looks like. The packaging, I believe is pretty identical. The only difference I'm seeing is there is silver on the hinge of one and then silver throughout. And then there's just like clear through the other. But I mean, it's pretty much the same. So let's start on a look. I'm not going to set my base on my lid because I do want to give some grip to this. So I am going to start off with the deepest color here and a really tiny pencil brush. And I went ahead and zoomed you in. Millie is snoring downstairs, but she's in the front room, which is like closer to my studio, and I can hear it. So if you can hear it, you are welcome. Bulldog snores are kind of like therapy to me. So I'm going to lay down the product and then take a small brush and soften, but very, very slightly, not going high up or super thick with my blending. There are so many new makeup releases right now. I feel like my head is spinning. Seriously, like, and there's a lot that I'm actually interested in. So I am just buying way too much stuff. But the Sephora sale is coming. So I really want to have my thoughts on a lot of products and, you know, demo them if possible for you guys. But I have bought way too much stuff. It's kind of a lot. I'm like, okay, reel it in. There's a lot of like luxury stuff, which obviously is pricey, but I do end up loving a lot of luxury items, especially like highlighters, blushes, and there is a lot. And once I have that diffused just enough, I'm going to jump into this warmer tone and I'm going to use a BK211. I'm just going to use a tiny amount. So I'm going to dip in and then just like really tap off. And I want to go right on top of the edges. So I can almost like stamp it and then just buff the edges with like really light pressure. Next, I'm going to take a little bit of this pink. If I have to add a little bit of the light cream, I will, but I'm going to use a N13 from BK and Nikki, and I want to see if this will soften even more. So I'm just kind of layering. And then I am going to go back in with that dark brown and just reinforce the inner and outer corner. So far, I am not having any struggles. I'm not sure if it's just because this is like a new palette, my other one's older, but I feel like I'm not struggling with the mattes at all. And I also wonder if it's because I didn't set my base. I think that's something that could be beneficial with this matte formula. And for the center of the lid, I'm gonna go into this color right here. It seems to be maybe a little bit more cool toned. So you can see that this formula has that like glitter effect. You're gonna have some fallout, but it gives that really pretty shine, which is why people love these palettes. That was really the big complaint with the Nature palette, is that they were more subdued. I actually really like those too, but I think they're just both, you know, beautiful formulas. This formula is going to be the type that doesn't have a ton of base pigment, but it does have that like sparkle. There are, I think, what is it? 2 or maybe just 1? No, 2 standard kind of metallics in here. You can see like they actually have pigment behind them, whereas this is just more of like a glitter sparkle. Okay, and then I think I'm gonna go in to this color up here, and I wanna try to just brighten a little bit. I gotta get this all off, but I wanna keep it lower. Yeah, just to sort of like brighten and add a little bit more of that like base color. And then I am gonna go into the cream shade. I just wanna use this to kind of clean around any of the edges. And I'm gonna quickly go off camera to do a wing. I just wanna be able to get, you know, in my mirror and see what I'm doing, and then we'll come back and try a new mascara. So I went ahead and did my wings. They're not the best today, but it is what it is. Also, side note, I have a pretty gnarly bruise from my Botox. I get like a brow lift and I bruised, which is sort of weird, but that's what that is. So I'm gonna go back into the warm shade here, and I just wanna add some warmth and a little bit of depth right on the outer edge here. So next I have a new mascara to test out. This is from Makeup Forever. They sent this to me in PR. This is the Volume Artist Clump Free Mascara. It's supposed to be volumizing and lengthening. It doesn't say that it is waterproof or a tubing formula. So it has a thicker wand. So let's just start building the lashes up. A little bit of a wet formula. But I am getting some really nice length. So far, it's not clumping. I'm not getting a ton of volume, which is interesting because usually I feel like I get more volume with this type of wand, but. So this is what the Makeup Forever mascara looks like. I do have shorter lashes, and a lot of times I lose lashes only on this eye. This is the eye that I have like issues with irritation, allergies, my contacts. So I don't know why, but these lashes are much longer, which is annoying. But I do feel like this gave me good length. The volume, not as much. So I'll have to keep trying this out, but first impression is not bad. And then I did want to try out this Danessa Myricks Barrier Boost Cream. So I've been using this behind the scenes. She sent this to me in PR, and I wanted to try this under makeup because I have not done that yet. The texture on this I thought was gonna be a little bit heavier, but it is a really nice gel feel, and it has been really soothing, especially like at night. I think it is fragrance free, which I personally like. So I'm just going to squeeze out about that much and apply all over. That bruise is pretty bad. I was kind of surprised when I noticed it, because I usually don't bruise. Grabbing a little bit more for my forehead. My face gets red just from touching it, which is just joyous. The feel on this is really nice. Next, I want to try this product that is definitely unique for me personally. This is the Matcha Milk Cake Loose Powder from Huda Beauty. So this was sent to me in PR, and I thought this was supposed to be just like a standard setting powder that you use to bake to give you a little bit of like a tint. But this is really for color correction specifically. I am so glad that I looked up how to use this because I was quite confused and then it made sense. This is only going to work for those of us that have redness, rosacea, which I definitely do. Huda recommended just using this before you go in with your foundation or your cream products. So the way that she described it was using the puff and start applying to your face areas that are red. So I'm just gonna do half of my face just to see, because I do have rosacea. If I'm gonna put on a foundation, I'm going to cover up my redness anyways. So this would be a product that I would personally reach for, probably only when I have like no makeup on. So I think that is as much as it's going to build up without having that green cast. I still have that on my nose. My nose just doesn't, you know, want to cooperate. And of course it is the one place that I really need redness covered. But looking in my viewfinder in my mirror, I do think that it looks more even and a smidge less red. It's quite subtle, but I do have to say when you have redness, it is really embarrassing. People will, you know, comment and why is your face so red? Or, you know, why is your nose so red? Like you don't know and like you can control it. So being somebody with redness, I totally understand anything to take the edge off. I do think that it does. It would be a product that I would use probably only when I have no makeup on though. And I don't know if the loose format is the best. I would have preferred something that was a pressed powder, but I do think that it did lessen the redness. You guys will have to let me know, and of course I'll watch my footage back, but it does have a little bit of that green tinge. Not noticeable, but when you compare, it almost like changed the undertone of my skin, but it's very slight. But if you don't have redness, this isn't gonna do anything for you. And when I was watching Huda explain it, she doesn't recommend, you know, putting it all over under your eyes or baking with it. Really, it's only for color correction. So if you were using like maybe a tinted moisturizer and you felt like your redness was still coming through, you would reach for this. But otherwise, using it like I did is kind of how they suggest. So I went ahead and put my foundation on. I just mixed the True Match and the Infallible. I wanted to keep something that I knew worked for me because I want to see how this plays on top. So these are the new Too Faced Multi-Use Sculpting and Defining Pencils. I thought originally these were going to be for eyes, lips, but I don't know. It doesn't say that they can be used around the eyes. They're more for lips and like bronzing and contouring. So I just want to swatch some of these for you and try this as a contour. So this one is Chocolate Mousse. They are standard like crayon. I don't know. The texture on this and that blend, feels a little stiff to be used like as a contour. I mean, I'm like rubbing intensely. I mean, it does blend out, but I don't know if I think that's the most seamless. So now I'm getting a little bit nervous. It does sort of set down. Let's swatch Chocolate Caramel. That one felt a little creamier, but I'm really like having to push to blend this out. I mean, it does blend out, but that just doesn't seem like it's going to be, I don't know. I feel like it's going to disrupt what you have on underneath. I'm trying to decide which shade. That looks a little warm, but let's try, I guess let's try this one, Chocolate Caramel. I have to say I am nervous because it's just not a creamy feel. Like it's just not creamy enough, but let's go ahead and try it. How do you even do this? Like, I don't even think you can work off your hand. I'm gonna just load it up on my hand and then try to use a BK brush. I don't feel like putting it on your skin directly would be a good move. I mean, I see it, but I feel like you're gonna go through so much of the product having to continuously build up like that. This color almost has like a, does that look like a red undertone? I was really excited about these, but that was when I thought that they were for your eyes. Yeah, I just don't like how that looks. Did that disrupt? Actually, now that I'm looking at it, it did. It completely removed my foundation. I'm gonna try to zoom you in. Here I am, I'm like, oh, it's red toned, which that shade was, but it literally, you can see like the line, it completely removed my foundation. So that's gonna be a no for that on the cheeks. And I'm just gonna use something that I know works for me. This is the Dior Forever Skin Bronze Stick in 3. It's more of a cooler tone, but yeah, I was really excited about those Too Faced because I thought they were gonna be similar to the Makeup Forever, and they had some really pretty colors like I thought for the eyes. I just couldn't find any information. There was a couple people on the Sephora website that were asking if they could be used on the eyes, but there was no replies, and I couldn't find that as like a suggested use, which was kind of interesting. As a multi-use, you would think lips and eyes would be like the first things, but it seemed like they were more advertising it as like a bronzer, sculptor, and even like a brow product. Next, I want to swatch and demo these Armani Luminous Silk Cheek Tints. They have 3 new shades. I am obsessed with this formula. I have purchased, I want to say every shade, but like 1. I absolutely love this formula. It is my most used liquid blush, and they came out with 3 new colors. So I wanted to swatch them and then maybe try like 2 today. So this shade is 63. I do think that these colors were needed because the original colors are really bright, kind of like the baby pinks, the bright corals, or the hot reds, but these are more neutral shades or like your skin but better, more natural colors. This shade I used on vacation. This is shade 12, but I also like to use these on my lips, so I think I'm gonna use that on my lips today. And then we also have the shade 13, which is kind of like that burnt red sort of color, but quite deep and intense. I absolutely love this formula. So let me start with the light color. We'll just put a little bit on and then go from there. I think this shade might be a little bit too light for my cheeks or my preferences, but it will work on my lips. And I do use this formula on my lips quite often. So this is what that first shade looks like. It does show up, but it's very, 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 close to my skin tone. So it's not gonna give me much color. If you like a really natural blush, it may be one for you, but I am happy to use that on my lips because it has that really light pinky nude shade. So I'm gonna grab some of 63 and I'm just gonna go over that and see what this looks like. I have not used this color yet. Very, very pretty. This formula is just not sticky. It's not overly pigmented. So you have that wiggle room to build it, but it's not, too sheer where you can't see it. It plays beautifully with powder. And that's what I love about it. It's just one of those formulas that isn't overly thick or glowy. It doesn't enhance your texture, but it doesn't look flat. So that is the shade 63, and that's just like a light layer. I wonder if I should, I don't know, maybe let's try 13. Let's add a smidge of it. This one is quite deep for my skin tone, so not something that I wanna throw all over, but I'm just gonna amp it up here. Yeah, you can see just even a little bit of that brings more of that sun-kissed color. This would be a really pretty color. Actually, I'm just gonna do a little bit around my nose because these shades are kind of like that burnt sun-kissed color story. So I'm just gonna go ahead and go back into that 63 on the other side and try to match this up. I'm so happy that they came out with more colors because I cannot get enough of this formula. I tried the luminous version. Well, I guess they are called the luminous silk cheek tints, but they did come out with like a radiant version. These are not radiant. They do not have any glow or glitter. I just didn't like the luminous version as much, or the illuminating, whatever you want to call it. I don't know, it just felt like it wasn't as pigmented, and it just didn't have that ease of use that these do. So I'm very, very happy to see that they did expand these. So I've gone, you know, a little over the top with the blush, but I'm gonna go in with concealer and kind of clean everything up. But I wanted to really build up both of those shades. I added, again, a little bit of the deeper shade so you can see how stunning, oh, these colors are. And because I don't have a brand new concealer, I'm gonna use my Patrick Ta. I've been really enjoying this. This one is very, very brightening. It has that moussey like texture. I wouldn't say that it's hydrating, but I don't find it to be extra drying either. I have the shade Fair Golden 3. I think in a previous video I said I had the shade 3 because I thought, you know, that was the only shade, but it's Fair Golden 3, and it's a little light. So during the Sephora event, I may grab something just a little bit darker. I probably applied a lot, but here we are. You know when you're just not having the best makeup day, like my eyeliner wasn't cooperating and I just don't feel at my best. I think it's just, you know, being a woman, different points of my, what is it, my cycle and my ovulation, who knows, you know what, all of that. What is it, the luteal phase? It's like I woke up a few days ago and I was like, ew, what the hell is going on with you? I'm sure you guys can relate. You just sometimes wake up, and I like to say, feeling like a toe. Looking and feeling like a toe. That's kind of how I've been feeling. So it's not been fun, but we'll get through it. Just the average life of every woman. So now I want to set the face, and I'm gonna use my beloved L'Oreal powder. And this is one reason I love those blushes so much, because they do work so well with powder. Like you can load powder on top of those blushes, no problem. They don't lift, they don't patch. And that's something that I struggle with, especially with formulas that are sticky. It's kind of one of those things that I have to get my hands on a liquid or cream blush to know, because if they have a tack to them, I know immediately that they're going to patch, lift, and kind of just remove when I put powder on them. But these just look seamless. Like it almost looks like I just put on a powder blush, and they will last, whoa, what's going on with my camera? And they will last all day. I absolutely love the formula, and I love the shades. I thought I saw that they had like a lilac, like a true lilac purple too, but not, I haven't seen it in the States. So I've got my eye on that, because I'm telling you, I need every shade. I think the only shade I don't have is like a deep, is it a deep purple maroon? Which this other shade that I used today a little bit is quite deep for me, but this formula is just so forgiving. So I went ahead and finished my brows and then added a little bit of mascara on my lower lashes. I did also add this Sochi eyeliner. I absolutely love this. This is the Waterline Eye Brightener in Cashmere. It's so creamy, and it really does make your eyes pop, or your waterline. And then I did also add some of my Givenchy bronzer. I have the shade 002. I just absolutely love this for adding warmth. I felt like the Dior bronzer stick was very cool toned, and I needed something to like bring the skin to life. So I used this. And then, speaking of Givenchy, I'm so excited about this. I picked up 2 of the new highlighters. So these are the Prisme Libre highlighter powders. So stunning, the presentation, but I have to say that I have a lot of luxury highlighters that are top tier. When I think about luxury brands, I do think of highlighters. The Dior highlighters are incredible. The Tom Ford are incredible. And I love a lot of the Givenchy products, like the bronzers, the blushes. Luxury brands are really giving it to me. There's like a higher class of luxury brands like Chantecaille, Clé de Peau that sometimes I feel like doesn't really fit my personal style. But some of the brands that are at Sephora like Dior, YSL, Givenchy, Armani, those are really giving me everything that I want. So I got this shade Lilac Pink, and then I also picked up the Rosy Gold. I was in between this and the other shade. I think it was like more of just like a golden, but I'm so glad that I got this because it just looks so beautiful. So I wanna go ahead and swatch these. I feel guilty even touching them, but these look so beautiful. They have that like baked gelée type of feel. So I'm just gonna build that up. And they do have the Givenchy scent to them, which it's a little much, I will have to say. Like, it's a little intense, but it's a highlighter, so it's not something that bothers me. And then this is the Lilac Pink shade. So I'm just kind of building these up. They don't feel very thick or creamy. They feel more lightweight, but also drier, which I want to see how that translates on the skin. So I think I'm going to start with this Rose Gold shade, and I'm just going to use a clean brush. When you do dip in, there's like a little bit of powder kick up, but very, very minimal if you're familiar with baked gelée formulas. Okay, that's really pretty. It is so lightweight, like you can't even like feel it. There's no cream to it, and it gives a really pretty glow. I would say that if you get it in your pore area, just like any highlighter, it is going to enhance texture. But if I just sort of sweep that away, it's really beautiful. It does feel different though. When I think about like my Tom Ford, it's quite creamy if you've ever tried that. I would say the Tom Ford is the creamiest formula, and then in between would be like the Dior Backstage palette. This feels weightless. So it doesn't feel as like thick or creamy, which upon swatching, you may be like, oh, that's gonna be dry. But on the skin as a highlighter, it feels like it's just weightless. And when I'm looking at my skin, I see literally like a couple little particles from where I smeared that in, but I'm not seeing glitter or anything like that flying around, which is something that, you know, I don't personally love. It's right where I put it. So I built that up quite a lot, but I think that is so pretty. And I want to go in on the other side with the Lilac Pink. So I have a fresh brush. Okay, so looking at each side, I definitely prefer the Rose Gold. I do think that the pink is really pretty. It might just be because right now I have on like warmer blushes. It's not too like overly lilac, which is nice. Like it doesn't look iridescent in the sense of you have to have it with, you know, like only pastels. It's very pretty. But I do see myself using the Rose Gold much more. I do think both shades are stunning. I don't know. I think just with my look today, maybe I'm really preferring this one, but I am happy that I got this, and now I'm scared for myself because when the Sephora sale comes, I really kind of want to get the gold shade too. And do I need it? No, but I want it. Very, very pretty. Moving on to lips, I have these new lip products from KJH brand, and I'm really excited about them. So this is owned by Katie Jane Hughes. She is so pretty, it like actually hurts. Like her face, so beautiful, that's what she looks like. So this is a prismatic lip crayon that glides onto the lips, leaving a light reflecting finish. So it's designed with the comfort and ease of a crayon application, but the full coverage of a lipstick. So it says to start by defining your lip line with a pointed tip to create a crisp outline. Then use the side of the crayon to fill in and diffuse the color. So it looks like we have 4 different shades here. It reminds me of the MAC Dazzle crayons, which I was a huge fan of. So I'm just gonna swatch a couple here. This first one is Mirage. They have different depths and different levels of metallic. And I will say that recently Makeup Forever came out with, I think it was like prismatic or just glowy versions of like their Wherever Walnut and, you know, their famous colors. And I actually really liked them as lip liners because they just give a little bit of light to the lip line. It almost gives the look of the Merit lip liners without the sheerness and like the smudginess. So this next shade is Phantom, which is definitely more purple toned. And then we also have this color Illusion, rosy, I don't know, leaning brown. And then the last color is Enigma. This one is the lightest one. So these are the swatches. So I'm gonna start out with Mirage, the darkest shade right here. Should I do Mirage? Or should I let me do Mirage. Let's start with Mirage. I swear I hear like NASCAR Teddy somewhere. I keep hearing like cars zooming by and I thought it was just a one-off, but now I feel like there's a NASCAR Teddy like on the back roads. Do you know what I mean? Like he's wreaking havoc because it's like getting on my nerves at this point. I keep hearing it and it's not going away. So that's not ideal. Okay, so these have a nice glide to them, but they're not slipping around. Like they're not so smooth that you can't have any control. So I'm just going to lay that down and then blend because that's kind of what they say to do. Literally sounds like NASCAR Teddy is revving his engine down the road. I'm gonna need him to stop, you know, because it's getting on my nerves. Okay, so I'm going to try to wipe these off in the meantime. I just wanna see, yeah, they're not gonna be something that's like, you know, budge proof, but they feel like they have a decent set down. Yeah, I'm kind of struggling with that. That is something that I am noticing. Like I can't really get my Cupid's bow to be sharp. So I'll have to kind of play around. I think her vibe overall though, Katie's vibe, is just more of like a smudged look. So this is what Mirage looks like as a liner. I want to try to add some of my Luminous Silk in 12. I'm just going to use my fingertips so I don't get the applicator dirty. I really do love this formula on the lips. Kind of gives me like a soft matte feel. I'm just going to add a little bit more. Yeah, I think that is a really pretty combo. I'm gonna add a little bit of the lightest shade called Enigma. Just in the center. To give it a little bit more of that like metallic look. I think these are really pretty. They really do smudge nicely. They're not like the Road that like just smeared straight off. You have the ability to move them, but they have a good grip, if that makes sense. So I quite like these. I figured I would, but they're very, very pretty. And I think something different, which I like to see. All right, guys, so here's my finished makeup look, trying out a bunch of new products, and I wanna give you my initial first impressions. So I'm happy to say that just upon using the new Makeup by Mario palette, I do believe that it is the same formula. I'm not seeing any differences in the colors that I used. The shimmers are just as glittery. They are more glittery than the Ethereal Nature palette. So I think if you wanted to get this original palette and you missed it, I'm very happy that he did keep the same formula and didn't, you know, change it up and then tell people it was the same. Everything looks pretty much identical to me. I feel like the shimmers are very, very glittery. They have that topper feel. And the only thing, like I said, was that the mattes felt easier to work with. But again, I don't know if that's just because this is a new palette and my other palette is 4 years old. So I am really happy with this. I actually find this easier to work with than the previous version, and I think people are going to be very excited about it. And in terms of the Makeup Forever mascara, I don't know, I feel like my lashes look okay. I have a lot of length, but I don't feel like it gives me enough volume, especially like at the base of my lash. So I'm gonna have to continue to try this. I do feel like it's a wet formula. It doesn't get clumpy quickly, which is nice, but if you want to build that volume, I don't know if it could get you there. Because I have such light lashes at the base of my lash, I really like something that gives me almost the appearance of having liner on, and this one I felt like I struggled with. So I'll have to keep testing that out. I do like this Yummy Skin Barrier Boost. I still am new to it and I don't know if it's gonna cause any acne or redness. I've only used it for a few days, but I do like that it does seem to play well under makeup. I mean, I feel like my skin looks nice and healthy. It doesn't look dry, but it's not like greasy or too emollient. And I like that it has a gel feel, but it is quite hydrating, no fragrance as well. So interested to keep trying that. The Huda Beauty powder, I do think it's for a specific consumer, which would be myself. And I could see myself playing around with this in different ways if I didn't want to wear makeup. I almost wonder if I used a tacky gripping primer and then stippled this on, if I would get more of the effect that I was looking for. But I'm gonna have to go back and look at my footage because I felt like it did reduce my redness, but it did also leave a little bit of a green hue. So I'm interested to keep trying this. If you don't have rosacea, I would say just steer clear. And then in terms of the Too Faced, this is probably the most disappointing product that I tried today. I do not see how this is going to be useful to use as a contour. Even something really small like the KJH, I feel like anything smaller than that, it's like, how am I supposed to contour with this? But really my issue is this supposed to be used, or can this be used safely on your eyes? Because I feel like this would be good for like your inner rim or as a smudged liner, but also it just has such a sticky, kind of stiff feel until you blend it out. This is the lightest shade called Milk Chocolate. As I'm blending this, I mean, I'm pressing very, very hard. And once I blend it out, it sets, which is nice, but there's not enough emollients to use this on top of your foundation and not have lifting. This lifted all of my foundation, like all of it. So it just took off everything underneath it and then left this behind. It doesn't have the most seamless blend either. I feel like possibly as a liner, this may work. Because it sets down, it may not transfer. I'm gonna have to do some digging. If you know anything about this, and if you know if it's safe to use on eyes, the only reason I didn't use it on my eyes is because I couldn't find anywhere that it was safe to, and I didn't wanna, give myself a reaction. So that is disappointing unless you can use it on your eyes. I'll try it on my lips in another video, but I don't know. I'm just overall kind of disappointed with that. I am in love with these Armani blushes. I mean, I knew I would be. I think all three shades are stunning. Surprisingly, a little bit of this just gives me that like sun-kissed look. This shade is gorgeous, gorgeous. I feel like a lot of people would love this shade. And then I do love this for the lips. So even though this is very light on, my skin, it is beautiful on the lips. I love this formula so much. So highly, 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 highly recommend those. And then the second standout for me has to be the Givenchy highlighters. So pretty. Like, I feel like this is giving super high shine, but it's not chunky. I don't have glitter particles flying all over. My only thing is that it is heavily fragranced, which it doesn't stick around, but just wanted to note that. And then the other thing is that this formula definitely has a drier feel. So if I were to swatch this, it doesn't feel quite as creamy as some of the other favorites of mine, and that may have put me off, but I almost feel like the more you just like blend it in and then build it up, you just get this beautiful, like seamless shine. I think it looks so beautiful on the skin, so I'm really excited to continue to try this. I'm not surprised that I love it. I love this shade way more than the pink. I just feel like I'm gonna use this a ton more. So very happy with that. And then lastly, the KJH, I really like these. They remind me of a subdued liner slash lip crayon version of the MAC Dazzle Lips. I also feel like these are a little bit more substantial, so they don't feel like they're moving. You can smudge them around, but once this is on, I don't feel like it's going to slip and slide like at all. It is there and it doesn't feel like it's going to migrate, which is nice. And I do love the colors. So I really like this too. So I would say today, standouts for me are gonna be the Mario palette, the liners, and then my top 2 picks have to be these highlighters and the blushes. Just chef's kiss. So beautiful. So I think that is everything for this trying new makeup. My hair is driving me nuts as per usual, and I can't wait to just throw it up in a clip because that is the struggle that is wearing my bangs down. But I hope you guys did enjoy this video. Of course, I will link everything that I used today down below in my description box and also on YouTube Shopping. Let me know if you've tried any of these products or what products you picked up and loved, and what products you're most excited about you want me to review next. I have a ton of orders coming from Sephora. It's actually overwhelming. So content will be coming your way. So I hope you're excited about that. But if you did enjoy this video, please give it a thumbs up. And if you're new here, I hope you stick around and subscribe. As always, thank you guys again so much for watching. I'll see you in the next video.